This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerate it. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
You're full of shit!
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Who's got a hammer? There's insanity in the control room. Why? Oh, you're getting nervous, man.
Happy Monday, folks. Welcome to the show. Around the Nation, right here, Waldorf Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Boy, we have a show, or girl, or anything in between. Non-binary, doesn't matter. You're here, and I got stories. Fun times. So, we're going to talk about a bunch of different stuff. But mainly, like, half the show is going to be raging at Joe Manchin. And so, prepare for that. If you're a fan of Joe Manchin, well, you're not going to be happy. If you're not a fan of Joe Manchin, you're also not going to be happy because Joe Manchin is trash, and we're going to be talking about him. So, not so happy Monday. We got a bunch of stuff on him. But first, we're also going to have, we're going to make fun of Republicans. We're going to make fun of course, Donald Trump. And also Mo Brooks. We have an update on him. So that's funny and hilarious. Kind of sad. A lot of it has to do with the cyber. We get the cyber. We're going to talk about the cyber a lot. The security, very, very tough. Very difficult, the cyber. We're going to show you how dumb Republicans are when it comes to cyber. Fun. Lots of fun stuff. All right, so that said, before we get into the show, hopefully everybody had a pretty good weekend. I have been, of course, very busy, doing lots of different things. Usually, and of course, that kind of explains why I haven't had like a gaming stream in a while. I just have been incredibly busy, doing stuff around the house, and lots of projects to be done. But other than that, had a pretty good weekend. Hopefully, again, had a good one as well. But I'm ready. Get into the stories. Please like and share the stream, though, before we do. And let's do it. Former President Donald Trump wants to reject modernity and return to a simpler time. Take a look.
Well, that's here to stay, according to the Commerce Secretary. How do we stop it? I mean, the Commerce Secretary says, well, the companies should take action.
Go back to a much more old-fashioned form of accounting and things. You know, I have a son who's so good with computers. He's a young person, and, I mean, he can make these things sing. And when you put everything on internet and on all of these machines, you never see a piece of paper. I really think you have to go back to a different form of accounting, a different form of compiling information, because anybody can break in. I mean, I see young people, they can't walk without computers, and what they can do with them is incredible. I'm witness to it because as a young person, my 15-year-old son is, he's just a genius with this stuff. And you have people that are going to break into systems. I think you have to go back and you have to be much more reliant. There has to be much better security. And the kind of information they're getting is mind-boggling.
Okay. Reject modernity, return to monkey. That's basically not only Donald Trump, but of course, a lot of the Republican Party. Like, let's go back to let's not just go back to the 1870s. No, let's go back, way back. Things were so much simpler then. All I had to do is just go club a woman in the head, and then I could have sex with them. And that, it works out pretty well for me, not so much for her, but I don't really care. We're Republicans. And so it's not surprising to see them want to return to that kind of thing. But mostly he's just saying, and I think this is connected to, obviously, the big lie, election stuff. So now, my commentary, let me start out by saying boomer conversation. Total boomer conversation. I don't understand computers. They're very complicated. The young people, they're very, very good at them. My son, 15 years old, tremendous genius at computers. He could probably open a PDF. That's considered genius level to someone like Trump. Let's just say that. And I'm avoiding using the trope old people can't use. No, plenty of old people can use computers. And guess what? It's one of those things that if you actually try to learn about them, as a lot of older people have, you too can become a computer whiz and quote make them sing, right? Let's make them sing. Ridiculous, right? But again, when it comes to learning new things and amassing actual knowledge, and really that takes time to learn how to operate a computer correctly. Well, I mean, we know how Donald Trump really feels about investing time to learn things. Yeah, it's very difficult. But then again, so this entire thing, by the way, this entire segment, and the reason that he's talking about return to monkey is he was asked about cybersecurity by Stuart Varney. Why would you ask Donald Trump about cybersecurity? He knows absolutely nothing. Honestly, he is the last person that you should be asking about the cyber. And honestly, look, most politicians don't have any clue about cybersecurity. In another segment, I'm going to talk about how Mo Brooks tweeted out his own password. I mean, they're not sending their best. And to be fair, on the Democratic side, you have plenty of boomer moments too. For example, John Podesta. John Podesta fell for a phishing scam, and that's how they got the emails. That's how they get the Hillary emails. And so, however, Trump appears to surpass the idiocy because of the dumb things that he says. In fact, I've got a couple of the dumb things that he said back in 2016, and he said plenty of dumb stuff since. But here's a couple of the ones that really do stand out.
So we have to get very, very tough on cyber and cyber warfare. It is a huge problem. I have a son. He's 10 years old. He has computers. He is so good with these computers. It's unbelievable. The security aspect of cyber is very, very tough. And maybe it's hardly doable. But I will say we are not doing the job we should be doing. But that's true throughout our whole governmental society. We have so many things that we have to do better, Lester, and certainly cyber is one of them.
Cyber. It's what we're doing. We're doing things very poorly. Doing things very poorly when it comes to cyber and the cybersecurity. And he goes on to, of course, talk about the 400-pound guy sitting on the bed doing the hacking. We don't know that it was Russia. Russia. It could be China. It could be a 400-pound guy sitting in the bed doing all this stuff. Okay, yeah, great. It's so ridiculous. 400-pound Chinese hackers. They're great with the cyber, just like his son, who again knows how to open a PDF. Seems legit. But it gets dumber. Just days before the most recent election, Trump also decided that he would mock somebody. Now this is a C-SPAN political editor Steve Scully, who had been suspended from his position for falsely claiming that a tweet that he sent was the work of a hacker. Now he said, quote, "Nobody gets hacked. To get hacked, you need somebody with 197 IQ, and he needs about 15% of your password." What? No, what? What are you talking about? Trump's statements, by the way, were followed by a report just days later that Trump himself, his Twitter account, had been hacked. Oops. Sad. Baby. No, nobody knows that much about cyber as much as I do, but cyber is very, very difficult. Yeah, no kidding. Apparently. Not a person who knows that much about cyber or cybersecurity or technology in general. So again, it makes sense to me that somebody would want to return to the quote unquote simpler times. But here's the thing. The simpler times didn't really exist. People actually ended up working harder. That's why we have computers now. That's why we have computers. In fact, you can't have the kind of, world that you have today without computers. And funny enough, he also, by the way, Trump loves technology. Or at least he did until he got kicked off all social media. No, look, here's the thing. When it comes to elections, though, he might actually have a bit of a point if he wanted to return to hand-counted paper ballots. I've long been an advocate of returning to hand-counted paper ballots, which, if done with a nonpartisan election official, that were in full view, of course, for accountability, would actually guarantee that people like, for example, Donald Trump would never be able to complain about the results of an election that he would legitimately lost, and would also guarantee that no other country or corporation could attempt to interfere with the votes. Now, of course, they say this, but they don't actually mean it when it comes to quote-unquote election security, because in reality, their type of election security is just to make sure that we can secure elections against black people voting. That's generally been the Republican security, okay? And again, I believe the vote, the right to vote is incredibly crucial. We do have to protect democracy from people like him and the MAGA rioters who literally believe in a conspiracy theory that isn't proven at all by facts. Other countries, as well as, Republicans, have shown that they're more than willing to try to cheat. Okay, to cheat in this election, especially Republicans. The majority of voter impersonation, the majority of voter fraud has actually been found to have been perpetrated by Republicans. As for businesses like pipelines, look, a lot of the hacking really comes from people who don't understand how to protect themselves online. For example, changing passwords, making sure your password isn't password. You would be surprised. Okay, you would be surprised. I know a lot of people working in IT. I'd actually also went to school for a while to become an IT, internet security professional. Okay, so I went through classes. I've seen examples of this. People do not know how to secure their computers, their phones, their machines. And so not only that, but people tend to fall for phishing scams. You got to try to avoid that stuff. You have to avoid sketchy websites. And yes, it helps to use things like firewalls, anti-malware, and antivirus suites, and all of that stuff. And by the way, hacking, it's funny because the popular view of hacking It's that it's like some person with like a power glove in the 1980s movies. They're moving through this weird cyberspace. You think, no, it's not. Okay, usually it's somebody who gets you to click on a link that downloads a program to your computer that will log your keystrokes, and then somehow they use that to, well, obviously, since they're logging your keys, they can extrapolate your password from your keys, okay? Or can view your screen remotely, all that sorts of stuff, okay? For example, the colonial hack they were talking about is actually somebody who obtained a password and used that password. They obtained it from an employee that had stolen it and was able to get access to the system, and then was able to cause damage. The best way to prevent these hacks is to teach people to be better aware of what they're doing online. And of course, not 100% foolproof, but most of the time, the problem exists between the keyboard and chair when it comes to when it's cybersecurity. And so it does happen. People like Trump, however, look, they not only haven't learned, but they're not interested in learning the realities of cyber, and therefore, ironically, make the most perfect targets for these kinds of attacks. And so it's not very complicated. At least it shouldn't be complicated. But again, we are dealing with a very stable genius, after all. The same was said for the JBS hack. Rude. Well, that's exactly the point that I was making, Chris. We got a lot of idiots. In fact, we got one coming up. Giuliani is somehow a supposed cybersecurity expert. Oh yeah, the guy who butt dials like a reporter and then says things that he shouldn't. Awesome. They stole 4 passwords from JBS's higher ups. True. Okay. Moving on. Representative Mo Brooks accidentally tweeted out his email and personal password in a thread complaining about, and this is ironic, somebody breaking into his home. Oops. So let me give you some background, because nobody broke into Mo Brooks' home, for one. Mo Brooks has been hiding from a lawsuit. He's been hiding from a service summons, okay? Launched by Representative Eric Swalwell over his involvement in the January 6th Capitol riot. Swalwell has been trying to serve Brooks for over a month, okay? And had to go as far as hiring a private investigator to track him down so he can actually serve the papers. So finally, after weeks of running and hiding in the bunkers or wherever he was hiding, really, Brooks was served. Not himself, by the way, but through his wife. So finally, they're like, okay, look, we're not going to be able to find Mo Brooks. Mo Brooks is hiding. All right, so I guess we're just going to have to serve your wife. So now, as a result, Mo Brooks is, well, he's mad. Mo mad? I don't know. Anyway, he claims that the process server violated the law, either broke the law. Oh my God, I can't believe it. That person illegally came into my house. In fact, here's what he said. Well, Swalwell finally did his job. Served complaint on my wife. Horrible. Swalwell's team committed a crime by unlawfully sneaking into my house and accosting my wife. Out of valid code 13A7-2, first-degree criminal trespass. Year in jail. $6,000 fine. More to come. I got 3 words. Baby, beta, bitch. Seriously. Wow. For one, okay, how did he sneak into your home? I mean, look, nothing was stolen, nobody was hurt, and he was there to serve a legal process. Note, okay, he is there to serve you papers for a reason. So I don't know what happened. Did he knock on the door? And when his wife answered the door, did she like try to slam it on him, or accidentally slam his foot in the door? Did he try to stick his foot in the door in order to try to serve the papers? What happened? What happened? I don't know. But man, you could tell he's scared, real scared. For one, here's the thing. Okay, so Mo Brooks, and I broke this down in another segment. Mo Brooks is campaigning on January 6th. He's not campaigning like, oh, I was protecting democracy. Well, I mean, he kind of is, but by being on the side of the rioters, essentially, okay? And in, you know, basically trying to promote the big lie. You know, oh, no, they were there. First of all, it wasn't us. It was the Antifa super soldiers that were actually the ones that invaded the Capitol. But we were the one out there trying to, you know, we were trying to stop the steal, essentially. We're stop the steal. And so we're out there and we were fighting back against the fake news media and the deep state and the globalists and all that. So yeah, we're trying to defend the real president of the United States. Okay. And so, yes, he's doing that. He's running ads on that. He was also a speaker at the January 6th rally. His rhetoric did help incite the crowd, along with Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump, and the others that are actually involved in this lawsuit from Eric Swalwell. And he basically, the point is that he's proud of being part of this. Now, he's also doing those ads because he wants his cake, you know, to have his cake and eat it too. He knows that you can only exist in the current Republican Party by being a Trump bootlegger. That's essentially what it is. He wants to stay in power. He loves Donald Trump's rhetoric. He loves Donald Trump's actions, and also doesn't want to face the consequences of his own actions for, you know, inciting this crowd. And so he knows that it's wrong. That's why he's running like a baby bitch. But also is now trying to, because it's basically a last desperate attempt to try to make Swalwell out to be a villain. But it gets even better because Mo Brooks decided that he would take a picture of his computer screen, not a desktop image, right? Not a screenshot of his desktop, but literally took his phone and took a photo of his screen, of his monitor. In the corner of his monitor had his Gmail password and his PIN. Oops. Again, they're not sending their best. They know nothing about computers, nothing about cyber. And the real irony here is Mo Brooks is on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee and is a member of the Subcommittee on Space. And get this. This is even better. He is also a member of the Congressional Cybersecurity Caucus. Cyber, very difficult. Dear God, we're fucked. We are so fucked. I mean, if anything demonstrates how not meritocratic the United States is, we have a congressman who screenshots his own passwords and posts them up on the internet, serving on two very important technology-based committees. The man is making decisions on cybersecurity while doing this, while knowing absolutely nothing about how to protect your own cybersecurity. I'm surprised he didn't take it down yet. The tweet, as far as I know, the tweet's still up. I checked like a couple hours ago. And it's not like he didn't notice, because it was trending all over Twitter. But I guess you actually have to know how that works. You know, the cyber. They're not sending their best. Jesus Christ. All right. Anyway. Fun times. Moving on. Go to Joe Manchin. Let's. All right. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin doesn't give a damn about democracy. By now, you probably heard that he will be voting against the For the People Act. So now that is H.R. 1. That is a bill that would require states to implement certain election reforms to actually make voting easier, which would include early voting, no excuse absentee balloting, automatic same-day voter registration, would also restore voting rights to ex-felons, making it harder to purge voter rolls, among many other things. It also includes, of course, ways to combat money in politics. And so there's a lot of things in there that, look, a lot of politicians on the right are not in favor of. And apparently Joe Manchin is one of those people. So now voting rights is incredibly important. I don't think I have to tell you that. Very important, which is why they are under assault in many states and could impact and disenfranchise millions of voters, most of them, of course, being brown and black. Now, in an opinion piece, however, published in the Charleston Gazette-Mail, Manchin defends his decision and also attacks the voting rights bill and suggested that he would only support legislation that is quote-unquote bipartisan. So here we go. He said this: I believe that partisan voting legislation will destroy the already weakening binds of our democracy, and for that reason, I will vote against the For the People Act. You do realize that Republicans hate voting, right? They admitted that they hate voting. They don't want more people to vote. In fact, in the 1980s, the godfather of the modern conservative movement, Paul Weyrich, and I always go back to this because it is the most honest that you could ever see a Republican. He admitted that, no, I don't want more people to vote. We don't want more people to vote. Why? Because the more people vote, the less chance we have of winning. Well, because we know, and this is not exactly what he said, but I'm just going to kind of extrapolate from that. They know that their policy positions are unpopular. They know that they only serve the rich, they serve the donors, as well as, of course, the racists in their base. And so they're not at all interested in expanding voting, especially to people of color. And so it's pretty explicit. If everybody had a chance to vote, black people especially, then yes, Republicans would continue to lose. And of course, Trump himself, one of the most also honest and open statements, had also come out and said, well, look, hey, if we have some of the things in H.R. 1, expand voting, well, then a Republican would never win office again. Well, yeah, unless, of course, the Republican Party, and here's the thing, the Republican Party as it exists now, which is basically reactionary, undemocratic, racist, as well as working only for the donors and the rich, well, of course they wouldn't win an election. They would actually have to change into a party that actually reflects America, the majority of America, in order to win elections. They don't want to do that because they have essentially painted themselves into an ideological corner and continue to go with the most further right of their base, which gives them money and guaranteed votes. Why would they? Then they would have to not have all the money flow to the donors. They wouldn't be able to trick people anymore. So they obviously have to stay with this, with the base that they have now, because they have nowhere else to go. Nowhere else to go. All right. Anyway, so now look, Joe Manchin appears to be defending the Republican Party, giving them cover. Now, why would you be defending Republicans, Joe? Unless you are one. I mean, again, that's the only reason you would be against expanded voting. You want Republicans to essentially be able to cheat their way into power so that Democrats will never get a majority, and so that Republicans will continue to kiss your ass. Democrats will continue to kiss your ass because you are suddenly finding yourself in a position of power. He is in the best place that he could ever be. Of course he doesn't want to give that up. Of course not. But understand that suppression is cheating. It is putting roadblocks in the way for certain people that don't affect other people so that your side wins more. And of course, as I've explained, the reason that you would cheat is because you can't win anymore, not with your current platform, not with your current numbers. And the way, of course, that our representation works is also broken. The Senate itself is broken. West Virginia has a population of about 1.8 million people. California has a population of about 39.5 million people. Joe Manchin has more power than the two senators from California to make policy right now. That's ridiculous. The votes of those people in West Virginia that do not represent, they only represent West Virginia and are deeply conservative, they have more power in West Virginia in the Senate than the entire state of California. Insanity. Total insanity. And Manchin is literally the only holdout on this voting rights bill. Every other Democrat seems to be on board. So you have a senator here from a state that has less than 2 million people in, obliterating any chance at a bill that every other member of his party is in favor of getting passed. Single-handedly destroying voting rights. Because of course. And that is broken. And by the way, it's not like HR 1 would completely make it, it would fix everything. It would just make it slightly less broken. But of course, we can't have that because, bipartisanship. I gotta have bipartisanship. But not only does he not want more people to vote, Manchin also doesn't think we should end the filibuster. Quote, for as long as I have the privilege of being your U.S. Senator, I will fight to represent the people of West Virginia, to seek bipartisan compromise, no matter how difficult, and develop the political bonds that end divisions and help unite the country be loved. Congressional action on federal voting rights legislation must be the result of both Democrats and Republicans coming together to find a pathway forward, or we risk further dividing and destroying the republic we swore to protect and defend as elected officials. Again, Republicans don't want you to vote. They've already tried to destroy the republic. Do you not remember what happened on January 6th? And to see all these Republicans afterward try to downplay it? They've already tried. They already want to destroy the republic. That's it. You only don't see it because you don't want to. And again, you want everybody to kiss your ass both left and right. You call yourself a centrist, but really, you're an enabler for the far right. And obstruction. The stop the steal people. Okay? The people who spread the big lie and have used it to make it harder to vote. That is who Joe Manchin is helping today. That is who they're covering for. That is why he is destroying democracy. And of course, there's a big reason why. But first, the bill, when given an overview, has wide support from mainly all across the political spectrum. In some polls, there's even 80% of respondents. Now, of course, there's caveats to that. Of course, obviously, a lot of it has to do with, what political party supports what. But generally, when people just straight up say, this is the policy position, without triggering people's team mentality, most people are in favor of sure, I love limiting I love the idea of limiting influence of money in politics. Great. I agree. I think we should get the union money out of politics. I think we should get the corporate money out of politics. All the money out of politics. Modernizing election infrastructure. Okay. Increasing election security. Totally fine with that. And look, nonpartisan redistricting commissions, more than 60% of voters responded favorably to that. We have an issue with gerrymandering, and I'm saying both sides actually do gerrymander. Democrats will create safe districts for themselves. Republicans will also do the same. Sometimes they'll get together in these commissions and they'll say, okay, you can have these districts and I'll have this, and we will both be safe. That's a problem that needs to be solved. That's a problem that the American people will look at some of these insane gerrymandered districts and be, what the hell is this? No, we should have things that are better. We should have things that are more representative. We should have districts that are drawn in ways that represent the voters, and that's fair to everybody. Instead of what we have now. Not only that, but most people also support early voting, automatic voter registration, giving everybody the chance to vote by mail. Before this election, voting by mail was not a problem. It was not a partisan thing. Most people were like, oh, yeah, vote by mail, totally fine. Because it works in different places. Oregon is a great example of where you had vote by mail for over 10 years. It has worked beautifully, incredibly low, issues with fraudulent ballots and all that. And so it worked then. Only with this last election where everybody lost their mind on the right wing, did we actually have any sort of problems with, mail-in ballots. But all that doesn't matter to Joe Manchin. Why? It's because in this bill, the biggest thing that affects Republican politicians as well as people like Manchin is money. Money in politics specifically. This would limit some money in politics. Now, Joe Manchin loves money in politics. He loves corruption. And again, loves being the center of attention. And he loves being the so-called kingmaker. He's a narcissistic prick, self-involved, and really is only doing anything he can to let Republicans win. All right. What about the Republican man who killed his wife and then voted twice? Oh, or the one who voted for, or who used his dead mother to vote for Trump and then voted for Trump himself? Yeah, definitely. Let's see. I'm going to take a real quick break. We're going to come back. Don't worry, we got more stories. More Joe Manchin stuff, including a Fox News host calling out Joe Manchin for obstruction. Weird. Very weird. And then, of course, we have Jamal Bowman as well. So stay right here. We'll be back around the nation.
dumps, big massive dumps.
Welcome back to the show. Around the nation, Waldorf Nation. All right, so let me get to messages, super chats, etc. Before getting to the show. Tumbles25, thank you so much for the 200 bits. Regular Mole Dragon, 300 bits. Tumbles25, also thank you for the tier 1 month sub. Appreciate that. Let's see. No, there are no fun stories left. It's all disaster. It's all downhill from here, guys. Hopefully you appreciate that. Okay, anyway, let's see. Harold 25, or is it 35? I can't read it, so it's blocked on my screen. But apparently not go back to Monkey, but to...
I'm sick of all these witches and warlocks.
Apparently to the witches and warlocks. Pretty close. I tried. Sad. All right, tried and failed. Lawrence Caseta, thank you for the kind donation. Aaron Pimentel. Would a Republican Congress certify the election results in 2024 if a Democrat wins? The fact that it's a question shows just how far things have gone. It's a scary thing to think about. Very scary thing. Yikes. Gabby Matzis says with their voter suppression, they will also lose votes. It all matters, like, how much they can suppress to the other side. Suppress, deflate, criminalize. Again, there's other factors too at play. Criminalization of protests, for example, targeting people with Black Lives Matter. So there's that. Stopping felons from being able to vote, and then making everything essentially a felony when it comes to protest. So there's that. All that stuff. Let's see. Every state gets 2 senators. It's fair. Larger population states get more House reps. Bad argument. I'm not going to say I don't agree with that being a bad argument when you give it some context. So now the House, that's true. The House does get more. The House also has, I think, less power to hold up the process than the Senate. In the Senate, you have things like the filibuster and the 60 vote threshold, right? And so right there, you could say that it's a check and balance, but the way that it is, that check and balance as it is of course broken, easily abused. And there's really no way to counter that when you have divided government, as we have for quite some time. And so as a result, it was designed this way to make sure that democracy, people in larger states, and that's why the Senate is pretty much a relic of Jim Crow at this point. The filibuster is as well. That you have like these smaller, notably southern states that had been part of the Confederacy or had been Confederate aligned or had been against civil rights in the past, be able to block larger, more abolitionist type of states that also happen to be more progressive. Democracy is about people, not land. And there's just not, as many people, so you don't really have that much representation. And so it's not just about that. You also have to look at the rest of the context of how the system is supposed to work and how it does work and how it is broken and how it's been abused and how really the system that we have set up, the way that we have set up, is really let's see. It's basically been used as a way to enshrine slavery. That's what it was. And we're still stuck with this antiquated system. I just think there's better ways that we could do this. Much better way. But that would involve huge changes in our system of government, which of course isn't going to happen. So really, talking about this is pretty hypothetical, but it does show you how broken this is. Anyway. Moving on. Let's see. Fox News host Chris Wallace had challenged Joe Manchin, who was refusing to support filibuster reform, to pass a voting rights bill and other Biden administration policies. So now what's really interesting about this is that it's Chris Wallace and Fox News that's actually calling out Joe Manchin. In fact, look, take a look.
The question I have is whether or not, and you say you hope that that'll bring the parties together. The question I have is whether or not you're doing it exactly the wrong way. And hear me out on this. If you were to keep the idea that maybe you would vote to kill the filibuster, wouldn't that give Republicans an incentive to actually negotiate? Because old Joe Manchin's out there, and who knows what he's going to do by taking it off the table. Haven't you empowered Republicans to be obstructionists?
I don't think so, because we have 7 brave Republicans that continue to vote for what they know is right and the facts as they see them, not worrying about the political consequences.
Wait, what? I'm sorry. No, the correct answer is yes, you have empowered Republicans. I'm not saying that he had to go and vote to blow up the filibuster, but immediately he came out and said, no, I'm not going to do anything about the filibuster. Now, what is that? What message does that send to the Republicans? He's not going to do anything, so of course we can block him. We don't have to negotiate because he's not going to do anything. That's it. We're just going to continue to block the Democrats as we plan to do all along, because we know Joe Manchin is going to not fight back. He's never going to get rid of the filibuster. Well, there you go. Well, there you go. So remember, Mitch McConnell has openly admitted his only priority, his number one priority, just like it was back during the Obama administration, to prevent Biden from doing anything of substance. And I mean anything. Whether it be milquetoast or weaker COVID relief, the $2 trillion in COVID relief. Republicans still blocked that. Even though Biden, and I was saying, don't reach out to Republicans. Don't reach out to Republicans. People need aid now. Just go through reconciliation. He still reached out to Republicans. And they slapped his hand away. Every single time. Well then, all right. I guess we're just going to move on without you. But no, they haven't learned their lesson. Maybe Biden is starting to, but it doesn't matter. Because guess what? Joe Manchin is the guy who is making sure that Republicans will continue to win over and over and over again by, Democrats not being able to get voting rights bills done. And by the way, the fact that you have 7 Republicans who you say vote for the right things, well, guess what? That doesn't mean a goddamn thing. Why? Because you need 10. If you don't have 10, if you don't have enough to beat a filibuster, then you don't have anything. You have less than nothing. And in theory, it should be easier in a situation where you have a 50-50 split, with the vice president, of course, being the tiebreaker, to actually get things done. You would have to, again, destroy the filibuster, and then you would have a simple majority. Well, there you go. It's so much easier to do that than to try to get 10 Republicans on board things that they don't support. But Wallace, he's not done. And it's weird because I got to give Chris Wallace credit, because he's like, why don't you just destroy the filibuster? Like, why are you trying to make this argument when they're going to block you no matter what? And it gives example, a really good example.
Let's just take the idea of creating a 9/11 commission to investigate the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. Republicans blocked that. Senator McConnell, the head of the Republicans in the Senate, says that he's 100% focused on blocking the Biden agenda. Question, aren't you being naive about this continuing talk about bipartisan cooperation?
I'm not being naive. I think he's 100% wrong in trying to block all the good things that we're trying to do for America. We a lot better if we had participation, and we're getting participation, but when it comes time to final vote, and I disagree with Leader McConnell on this, the minority leader on this issue, that he puts politics before the policies that I think we need for our country. I'm going to continue to keep working with my bipartisan friends, and hopefully we can get more of them. I can tell you this, in 2013, at that time, Harry Reid, the leader of the majority party, the Democrats, basically the nuclear option, which did away the filibuster on appointments and district and circuit judges. Come back to 2017, then we had Leader McConnell at that time in the majority, and he did away with it for the Supreme Court. So what goes around comes around here. They all understand that, and there were 33 Democrats in 2017 that signed a letter to please save the filibuster and save our democracy. That's what I'm trying to do.
I'm going to try to save democracy by letting Republicans destroy it. But don't worry, I'm not naive. Oh, no, I'm not naive at all. Even though I know 100% that Mitch McConnell wants to block everything that we do. Okay, then why are you still saying, don't worry, we can be bipartisan? They've already admitted that they're not going to work with you no matter what. And yet you're still saying, well, but don't worry, I can work with them. I can work with them. I can work with them. No, you're complicit in the destruction of democracy. If you're not part of the solution, at this point, you're part of the problem. Already, they have tried to reach out to Republicans. They're not at all interested. Again, Republicans were behind the January 6th Capitol insurrection. They tried to take over to prevent the certification in order to keep Donald Trump in office. What are you talking about? They're not interested in bipartisan solutions. They hate you. They don't hate Joe Manchin. In fact, they love Joe Manchin. They love what he's doing. They're happy that he's blocking Democrats. They're happy that he is blocking voting rights, an expansion of voting rights. They're happy that Manchin is allowing them to abuse Senate rules. So, and why would they work with him, though? They won't. They won't. Look, understand that, like, if we had a functional, good faith conservative party, which we do, it's the Democratic Party, you could actually do some bipartisanship. I know, but it doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist in the current party structures. It doesn't exist. The Republican Party is a party of QAnon and insurrection, and that's it. When Republican leaders are saying that it doesn't matter what you bring to the table, we will reject it. We've even rejected our own plans. By the way, if you go back during the Obama administration, when they talked about bipartisan immigration reform, they tanked their own bills on purpose. On purpose. That's a pretty clear sign that bipartisanship is dead. And they don't want to get anything done because guess what? It always comes down to elections. It always comes down to, we're going to make sure that Democrats get nothing done so that we can run the fact they got nothing done and then get back into power. And guess what? We're going to cut taxes. We're going to do deregulation. And that's it. That's what we do. That's our entire purpose right now as a party, to funnel money to the rich. And Manchin is helping with that. And guess what? It's because he benefits too. All right. One more. Representative Jamal Bowman is not happy with Senator Joe Manchin, and he had some harsh words for him. Take a look.
Joe Manchin has become the new Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, during Obama's presidency, said he would do everything in his power to stop Obama. He's also repeated that now during the Biden presidency by saying he would do everything in his power to stop President Biden. And now Joe Manchin is doing everything in his power to stop democracy and to stop our work for the people, the work that the people sent us here to do. H.R. 1 not only is a huge bill when it comes to voting rights, it's a huge bill in terms of getting big money out of politics, protecting our elections against fraud, and ending gerrymandering. I mean, big money in politics is what's destroying our democracy, and the Republican Party is aiding and abetting that, and Donald Trump is obviously doing that as well. So Manchin is not pushing us closer to bipartisanship. He is doing the work of the Republican Party by being an obstructionist, just like they've been since the beginning of Biden's presidency.
So, look, I think it's a fair comparison. Let's be honest. Because, again, it's not necessarily in the goals of Mitch McConnell, which is to advance, of course, the Republican agenda, which is to basically get money for his donors. Actually, you know what? That is kind of the same thing that Manchin is doing. Because he tends to benefit as well when Republicans are in power because the donors benefit. I think we'll look into that a little bit further down the line here. But again, by refusing, and this is where Bowman is absolutely right, by effectively refusing to kill the filibuster, yes, he is allowing Republicans to do obstruction. 100%. He is helping Republicans. I think Joe Manchin knows that right now Republicans are not interested in doing anything during the Biden agenda, during the Biden years. They're not interested in passing voting rights. They're not interested in putting a stop to money in politics. Why is that? Well, for one, if they expand voting rights and they make it so that more people vote, there's a good possibility that in the next coming elections, Democrats could win. Democrats could win some seats. And then Joe Manchin loses his ability to be basically a kingmaker. He loses his clout. Okay. For example, and this is what a lot of the blue checks, the Twitter liberals are talking about. Oh, we'll expand the majority in the next election. Now, therefore, we can make Joe Manchin moot. No doubt he has thought about that. And so while it does kind of solve that problem a little bit, you also have to remember there are places where progressives can win. There are places where Democrats and progressives can't win or have much more difficulty winning it. And so that's something, of course, you have to get around. And so, but as things stay the same, okay, effectively 50-50, everyone has to kiss Joe Manchin's ass. Joe Manchin loves that. The Republicans will lobby him to not pass things. Democrats will lobby him to try to pass things or to criticize him. So he's essentially, again, in a very powerful position, and he loves it. The other thing, of course, reason that Joe Manchin right now loves obstruction is because of money. It's the money in politics. H.R. 1 does some things to limit the role of money in politics. So now it doesn't go as far as I would love. It doesn't go far, in a lot of ways. But it's got a lot of good stuff in it. And it would absolutely help quite a bit in expanding voting rights. All right. And of course, trying to limit at least a little bit the role of money in politics. So now Joe Manchin gets a lot of money, as a lot of these Congress people do. Look, at the Republican side, there's a lot of big donors that give to the Republican Party, obviously, but on the Democratic side as well. And yet that hasn't stopped just about every Democrat except for Joe Manchin to support H.R. 1, which, one again, shows that it doesn't quite go far enough, but it does have some token reforms that could run on, because money in politics is deeply unpopular with the American people. But again, going back to Joe Manchin, guess where he gets his money? Well, big corporations, obviously. His top donors are both in fossil fuels, and his second highest donor, Milan Incorporated. Now, if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because that's the same company that jacked up the price of EpiPens, and the same company where his daughter worked, and actually recently retired with somewhere around a $30 million package. Mylan hiked the price of EpiPens over $300 a dose, despite it costing about less than $1 to produce. So, yeah, of course he doesn't want to do anything to impact money in politics, and so, of course, he wants to continue to get lots and lots of money without having to disclose his donors. He also knows that no Republican is going to vote for this, at least as it is, unless, of course, they strip out vast portions of the bill. If they decide to do this bipartisan, what's going to go first? The money in politics provisions. And, of course, anything that helps black voters be able to vote, have an easier time of voting, which kind of defeats the whole point of the bill at all. So now some members of the establishment press, unfortunately, are starting to circle the wagons around Joe Manchin now that progressives have to be calling him out. In fact, you have CNN reporter Manu Raju tweeting this, saying, quote, "Without Manchin, Mitch McConnell would be majority leader. With Manchin, Dems got a nearly $2 trillion COVID relief law that McConnell tried to derail." So, if we didn't have Joe Manchin, if we instead let a Republican win in West Virginia, because only somebody like Joe Manchin, an avowed centrist, could win in West Virginia, therefore, Joe Manchin good, we must protect Joe Manchin. And how dare you criticize him at all? What he's doing is fantastic. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. And here's the thing about the $2 trillion package. It's the least that you could do. It's the least that you could do. And honestly, I would love to have seen McConnell derail it. Not because, obviously, the American people needed help, and they needed help incredibly badly. But Republicans would have paid a deep, deep political price for that. Every Democrat, I would hope at least every Democrat, would be on cable news screaming about how Mitch McConnell stood in between you and COVID relief. It's a political no-brainer. But here's the thing. That is different than the situation that we have here. Because, again, if Republicans, Mitch McConnell had been majority leader, we wouldn't have gotten that, anything done. But you could blame it on Republicans. But now you have a Democrat that's blocking anything from getting done. And so what you have is, and again, two incredibly popular bills. You have a Democrat here making sure that nothing gets done. And so when that gets out into the news cycle, well, what are the voters going to think? Well, Democrats can't do anything. They can't get the stuff done that is popular that we want. And so what's the point of voting for Democrats? Did we not give you a majority to do something? I mean, Americans, when it comes down to it, they don't really care about bipartisanship. It is only establishment media. It is only people like, Manu Raju, the CNNs, the MSNBCs of the world that are like, oh, bipartisanship. Oh, we love bipartisanship. We worship at the altar of bipartisanship. But most Americans, again, they're like, yeah, we should try to reach out. But if they're not interested and it's something that most of us want, then hell yeah, we should go without Republicans. Hell yeah, we should do it. If it does something to make my life for the better, then of course we should go without them. If they're going to be obstructionist, we should leave them behind. But unfortunately, that's not happening. Because of people like Joe Manchin. DNC needs to pull Manchin's financial support. That's what I've been saying for a while. Defund Joe Manchin. Again, the DNC could pull all, threaten. At least they could do is threaten. Like, hey, we're not going to support your reelection if you continue to block our agenda. Now, there's a couple of reasons they're not going to do that. One, they overestimate the importance of Joe Manchin, which at this point, it seems comical to me because there seems to be no strategic advantage to keeping Joe Manchin when he's going to basically block your agenda and ensure that we end up having a Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, after 2024. Again, that's what it seems like to me. I'm not a highly paid political operative or strategist, so maybe I'm not seeing something. Maybe I got something wrong. But they could at least go and threaten that and say, play ball, or we're going to remove your financial support. That might be enough pressure to get them to do that. But again, there could be a reason the DNC is not doing that, and it could be the fact that they don't actually want to get things done. I don't know for sure, but I mean, it seems possible. Either way, not good. He is standing in the way of progress, and Jamal Bowman and other Democrats are absolutely right to call him out for it. Let's hope we see more of it. All right. Susan Huffstuffler, thank you. Appreciate that incredibly kind donation. All right. Anyway, I believe Manchin. When is Manchin up? Either 2024 or 2026. Well, when was his last election? I think it's 2026. So, yeah. Could always primary him, though. All right. So, that's it. That's all I got. Oh, is it 2020? All right, I'm getting lots of answers here. 2025 or 2024. It's a while. Yeah, he just recently won his re-election chance, beating out was Paula Jean Swearingen. Could have had Paula Jean. Could have had a progressive. Anyway, that's it. We'll see you all tomorrow. Please like and share before you go. Twitch audience. Let's see who we can raid into. Let's see. Raid channel. Oh, was it Ojeda? Okay. I guess I'm thinking of the previous time that Paula Jean did go after Manchin. Still could have had Paula Jean. Absolutely. All right, we're going to raid into left flank bets. So we'll do that. They're based, so stay around, watch them. Good times. And we will see you all tomorrow. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation.
Look sharp, NATO, except with this. There's some whores in this town.
Dumps.
Masturbate all day long.
Big, massive dumps.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.